Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Executive Vice President of Finance, Drew Wolfert.
Hey everybody. Well, it is great to be here with all of you today. It's been an amazing doTERRA connection so far. Some great material, and I'm so excited for everything still ahead. Well, today, I have the opportunity to talk to all of you about financial prosperity. As most of you know, and Corey had mentioned it earlier today, doTERRA wants to be known as the company that helps get the most people out of debt. And most of you know we have a book that we recommend. It's called The 4 Laws of Financial Prosperity. I know many of you have read this book, and I highly encourage you all to go get this book and read this book. It's very helpful. But rather than talk about that book today, I'm going to talk about 4 behavioral laws of financial prosperity. Doing well with money has nothing to do with intelligence, but rather everything to do with behavior. For example, a billionaire could lose control of their emotions and lose a fortune, whereas an ordinary person with no financial background could become extremely wealthy with basic behavioral skill sets. And so today I'm going to share with you 4 behaviors that are critical to personal finance. And before you get into other books and dig deep into other things, it is critical that you master these 4 behaviors. So the first law, don't compare. It's truly the thief of joy. Now I could stop here. This is probably the most difficult of all of the laws, and it's something that we all constantly need to work on throughout our lives. Human nature loves to compare with one another, and it is honestly the root of all financial problems. Don't compare. So here's an example. A survey of American adults was recently conducted, and they were asked which decade was the most prosperous, and they answered the 1950s. And so here's the cover story of Life magazine back in January of 1953. And in the story it reads, quote, "The present and immediate future seem astonishingly good. The country has just lived through what was economically the greatest year in its history." But let me give you a few stats comparing the 1950s versus today. Back then, the median family income was just $29,000. It's more than double that today. And these are adjusted for inflation. Back then, nearly half of the population had no health insurance. Today, that's all the way down to 9%. Back then, the percentage of population who died before they reached the age of 5 was 4%. That's less than 1% today. And back in the 1950s, the percentage of people that were still working beyond 65 was almost half of the population. Today, that's only 23%. And the size of homes back then was 983 square foot versus today, it's over 2,500 square feet. So clearly, I could go on, but back then was not nearly as good as we have it today. There's a quote by Warren Buffett that I love. He said, quote, "I mean, you're warm in the winter and cool in the summer and can watch the World Series on TV. You can do anything in the world. You literally live better than John D. Rockefeller. His unparalleled fortune couldn't buy what we now take for granted, whether the field is, to name just a few, transportation, entertainment, communication, or medical services. Rockefeller certainly had power and fame. He could not, however, live as well as my neighbors now do." So why do we, as Americans, feel that we're so much worse off today than we were back then? It's because we compare. Back then, there was very little disparity, right? Back then, people had very similar cars, very similar houses, similar income. Today, the disparity is massive, and it's amplified by the social media. I mean, I could go buy a new truck and be very excited and happy that I reached a goal. And then I pull up Instagram, and I see that Jeff Bezos just bought a $1.2 billion yacht. And I compare the two, and I'm not happy. So again, law number 1, don't compare. Law number 2, don't move the goalpost. Epicurus said, "Nothing is enough for the man to whom enough is too little. Now, this doesn't mean you need to settle and be unambitious. It simply means having an insatiable appetite for more and more will always lead to unhappiness. The point is, set a goal that you want to achieve in life that will bring you fulfillment for you and your family. And then once you reach that goal, don't move the goalpost again and again. Having the ability to deny an extra dollar, get a nicer car, bigger house, because you know it will lead to unhappiness, will lead to things that will not make you as happy. So it's critical to do that. Let me give you an example. The Vanderbilts. This was one of the wealthiest families in the world back in the 19th century. Cornelius Vanderbilt, he grew his wealth from the shipping and railroad industries. And at his death, his wealth, he built it from zero to nearly $3 billion, okay, in today's dollars. He left that wealth to his son, William, who more than doubled that to $6 billion over the next 10 years. At this time, this was the most wealth that any single family had ever achieved in the history of the world. William then left that on to his family, and within a few short years, they lost all of it. How in the world is that possible? They had an endless obsession to keep up their appearances. They had built, for example, over 15 mansions, 10 alone on Fifth Avenue in New York City. They kept building more and more and more. In summary, they kept moving their goalposts. They had an insatiable appetite for more. The third law, have humility. Building wealth has little to do with your income or financial returns and everything to do with your savings rate. And nothing increases your savings rate more than increasing your humility. Let me explain. First, you increase your savings rate if you spend less. You spend less if you want less. And lastly, you will want less if you care less what others think about you. Right? Wealth is simply what's left over after what you spend, which means if you spend less than what you receive, you then have wealth. And most important, here's the most important thing. That means no matter what your income level is, you can have wealth as long as you spend less than what you receive. So, last law. Spending money on nice things doesn't make people like you. Being kind, giving back, showing empathy is what people will remember you for. And that is true wealth. When you truly care to give to others, the first three laws, don't compare, don't move the goalpost, and have humility, they all will naturally happen. If at the core of what's most important to you is giving back and helping others, when your focus becomes on others rather than yourself, these other things just will naturally happen. So in a way, giving back is perhaps the most important of these four laws, behavioral laws. And this is why we love doTERRA. doTERRA, at the core foundation of what doTERRA has been giving back since the very beginning. It's everything that we've done, and it's everything that we continue to do. And it's because of this mindset that doTERRA has achieved true financial prosperity and been able to give that to so many people. Now, I also want to highly encourage all of you to join doTERRA's Free to Give program. You can learn more about this program on our website. You can enroll for free. And in fact, we have a booth just right down here at the hall that you can learn more about this program so that you can get out of debt and that you're able to become free to give. So, in summary, the four behavioral laws of financial prosperity are: 1, don't compare; 2, don't move the goalpost; 3, have humility; and 4, give back. These four behaviors are truly the foundation of building financial prosperity and getting out of debt. These are not 4 behaviors that you can simply obtain once in your life, check the box, and move on. These are 4 behaviors that we need to constantly work on throughout our lives. And as we always remind ourselves of these 4 behaviors, you will truly be wealthy and you will truly be happy. Thank you, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Diamond Melissa Christopher.
Oh,